shopgear.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
We welcome you to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, powered by the Gear Radio Network. This is episode 130, the NFL Playoff Previewcast. That's right. Don't adjust your dial. The Better Live Than Dead podcast is back on that radio podcast airwaves. Wherever you can hear it on a podcast, you can call it radio, whatever you want. It's here. It's Better Live Than Dead.
It is the modern day radio, ladies and gentlemen. It's the radio for the 99 and the 2000. I mean, wait, no, wait. Oh, I'm way off there. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
It is 2019.
No more juvenile references.
It is the first podcast of 2019 as well here for us. I am Ryan at Wolfe BLTD, joining me on the IndyCar Media Hotline. Mr. Perez, but he is under the weather. Get well soon. I've got John Cimino at the JC Money. How you doing tonight, John?
I am above the weather. I am not under the weather. I am great, Ryan. Always a pleasure to be on the BLTD podcast, the BLTD airwaves, the Gear Network airwaves. Man, I'm feeling good in 2019. Let me tell you. Mm-hmm.
It's good to have you on a podcast. And you can hear this podcast at betterlivethandead.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube. Wherever you get a podcast, you can get this podcast. I promise you that. And if you can't get it, tell me and we'll get it there for you. With that being said, like I mentioned, it's the NFL Playoff Preview Cast. The NFL playoffs are rolling up this weekend. But first, before we get started, Black Monday happened.
Hey, man, why is it got to be Black Monday?
That's what they call it. I didn't make it that way.
Listen, I'm a minority. My eyes don't see color. Oh, I call it Monday. Hey-o! It's not Trust the Podcast. The LTD Podcast historically has had, jokes.
Bad John jokes. I got you. I'm looking forward to it. We've got about another 30 minutes to go on a podcast. So, hey, bring it on. With that being said, 8 teams looking for head coaches. We obviously knew about the Packers, who were 6-9-1 this season, 125, 77, and 2 overall with Mike McCarthy, who was fired in December. Cleveland, the Browns, they are 7-8-1 this season. They improved quite a lot under Greg Williams, but they were 3-36-1 overall under Hugh Jackson, who was fired in October, which it's hard to believe he was 3-36-1, but that's a real thing that happened.
I tell you what, I can't even believe that leash that he had on the Browns so long. 3-36-1. You won 3 games
out of 4
in 3 years. At the pro level, like how the hell does this happen?
I mean, he was the guy.
Greg Williams came in, the same team, and he took them to 5 wins in his first year. It wasn't even a full year.
Well, Greg Williams, 5-3, like you mentioned. The one big, I think, upgrade for Cleveland, and they may try to keep him around, is Freddie Kitchens, who was named the offensive coordinator. After he was named the offensive coordinator, Baker Mayfield threw 19 touchdowns, 8 picks, completed 68.4% of his passes, and was sacked only 5 times. Now, I don't think Greg Williams is going to get the job because, frankly, Greg Williams is a pompous asshole. That's why he is a defensive coordinator. If you caught him on only a defensive coordinator, if you caught him on Hard Knocks in the preseason, again, ruthless, absolutely ruthless. Does he get the job done? Most of the time. But he is, if nothing else, an asshole.
He is, but you know what? The Cleveland Browns, they've got that swagger. I mean, Baker Mayfield, it's a different vibe in Cleveland, and I think someone that's kind of an asshole like Greg Williams would fit in very well there and there only at this point in time. I think he could, that's a fan base that is rabid and is starving for success. And the fact that he was able to come in such a short amount of time, help make Cleveland a destination for head coaches. Like, who'd have thought that the lowly Browns, the factory of sadness, the fan base that couldn't even get the dog pound sign laid out correctly a couple of seasons ago. Right, exactly. And now they're talking about the Cleveland Browns being a destination point. And I honestly feel like this is not the same old factory of sadness. I think Greg Williams could be the guy for, and would be a good fit. Personality aside, I think he fits there as a head coach, but only there as a head coach. I couldn't see him going anywhere else.
I think his act gets stale real quick, and that's a problem, especially with a young team. I think, excuse me, one of the big names that's been mentioned is the offensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts, Nick Sirianni, 37-year-old, like I said, offensive coordinator from Jamestown, New York. He worked his way up the ranks. It's kind of like Sean McVay, where, excuse me, with the success of Sean McVay in Los Angeles, when you get a coach who's young and is going to start sniffing success early, their names will pop up a lot quicker. Instead of where before it was, you got to work your way through the system, you got to prove yourself at multiple levels with multiple teams, and then you have to be a specific age. Where now it doesn't matter if you're a smart offensive mind, you're going to get a shot. And it looks like Nick Sirianni is a hot candidate for not only these two jobs but other jobs that we'll mention in just a moment.
Okay.
I was going to say, if you want to say something else, I can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to keep progressing here. That's damn you, Ryan. Yes. I mean, you look at the success of Sean McVay. He's a picture perfect example. When he was hired for the Rams job, he was the youngest NFL head coach in history at 30 years old. And everybody's like, oh, this guy's a baby. What's he going to do? How is he going to coach people that are a little older than him on his team? Well, guess what? Guess what he's done in that time? He has rejuvenated, helped, coach them up, coach the Rams up, helped develop Jared Goff into a, from a fantasy football perspective, points producing machine. He's got a good team around him. He's got an unbelievable defense there. The Rams are going to be tough in the playoffs, regardless of, how I picked in my predictions. They're going to be a tough team to beat. And he did this all after the Rams just moved back to LA from St. Louis, where they literally, the St. Louis fans couldn't care less whether or not they were there. And he has helped make LA Ramstown. Although Anthony Lynn and the Chargers, if the Chargers can actually, pack the place with fans and keep winning, that they might contend for that. But right now, LA is very much a Rams town, and that is in large part to Sean McVay and his smoke show of a wife.
I mean, I don't think I've seen her, but Sean McVay's real good at what he does.
I'm going to channel in my inner Mr. LG Perez here. Bro, look up Sean McVay's wife. Okay, that was it.
That's fair. I appreciate that.
I hope Lewis is listening to this. I hope Lewis is listening to this and going, God damn it, he did another voice impersonation of me again. Well, let me look up Sean McVay's wife. Oh, yo, she fine. And then he'll forgive me.
That is exactly what he would say. She real fine. She fine. That's what he would say.
She is.
The Arizona Cardinals 3-13, and overall only one season for Steve Wilkes, the worst franchise, tied for the worst franchise record, worst regular season record.
Here's what gets me about that. Steve Wilkes, one and done. I don't understand why they were so quick to pull the trigger on him when he had 3 wins in one season, but it took the Cleveland Browns 3 seasons to get rid of Hugh Jackson, who had 3 wins in his entire tenure.
I think with Hugh Jackson, they knew that Hugh Jackson was going to do the job. Hugh Jackson definitely was doing the gig for the team. They got their quarterback. It didn't respond. They didn't respond well, so they went out and made the change. I guess with Steve Wilkes, they felt that he wasn't the guy, and they didn't want to wait around to see if he could become the guy. It's fair.
I guess it's fair, all things considering, when you have Josh Rosen, who was drafted as high as he was, and you're trying to build something around him. I suppose I could understand that aspect of it, but still, I think after one season, I mean, I don't know. He couldn't have been worse than Jim Tom Sula was, but apparently he was, because he got a head coaching stint as long as Jim Tom Sula did.
Well, hey, the Cincinnati Bengals are the next on the list, 6-10 this year, 131, 122, and 3 overall for Marvin Lewis, who now is no longer employed by the Cincinnati Bengals, which is kind of shocking.
I'm fully expecting the P tape to come out. He had to have something on that damn ownership to be there for that long. 16 years. 16 years. You didn't win one playoff game. I mean, not one. You know, and it's funny is Brandon and I were talking about this on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, where, you know, could you imagine had Carson Palmer not torn his, you know, messed up his knee in that playoff game in 2004 against Pittsburgh, like what would have happened? He would have at least had one or two, possibly an AFC championship appearance, maybe a Super Bowl, because that was a good Cleveland, Cincinnati Bengals team back then, you know. But again, as far as Cincinnati's going to Cincinnati, because they just interviewed today, as of recording, they interviewed Hugh freaking Jackson.
They like him.
So Cincinnati is going to Cincinnati regardless.
They like to be comfortable, and that's the reason why they are so mediocre all the time. That is for sure.
Right.
Looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next, Dirk Cutter, he was let go. 19-29 overall, 5-11 this season. I would look for Dirk Cutter probably to go to Atlanta, and there's actually some talks that Bruce Arians may come out of retirement to go coach in Tampa Bay, which would probably be the best thing ever to happen for Jameis Winston because, well, Jameis Winston is a pile of trash. But speaking of another Florida team, the Miami Dolphins, they fired head coach Adam Gase, 23-25 overall, 7-9 this season, did not live up to expectations. Also very strange that ex-players and current players seemed very pleased that Adam Gase was fired. I wonder if maybe he wasn't such a big, he didn't have a lot of fans in that locker room, both past and present. He
got his job in Miami because of strong recommendation from Peyton Manning, and that didn't pan out. And I believe Adam Gase interviewed as well, or was set to interview with the Arizona Cardinals on the recommendation of Peyton Manning.
And Cleveland, I believe.
Was it Cleveland? Was it Cleveland? So. It might have been, but I know Peyton Manning had some kind of influencer. His name was attached to that one too. And, you know, I love you, Pate. You played a wonderful 18 seasons, and I was a big follower and big fan of yours, but bruh, just stick to making commercials and Adam Gase is not that guy.
And it's really funny too that they prop him up as a quarterback guru, but who has he gurued into being a great quarterback? I'm not sure.
I mean, he managed I will give him credit. He managed to get Jay Cutler to throw, you know, less interceptions than he did usually. So let's
get him a gold jacket then, you know?
There we go.
Jeez.
Well, Hugh Jackson deserves a gold jacket.
Yeah, the Hall of Shame, bro. That's miserable.
Indeed.
He would have to win. He would have to win at least back-to-back seasons, 16-0, just to get back to 500.
That is so terrible.
It's so bad.
Is so terribly sad.
But we look at the Denver Broncos real quick. Vance Joseph, 11-21 overall, 6-10 this season. Not much to say in Denver, aside from the fact that John Elway still can't find a quarterback. He got lucky with Peyton Manning, and that's really it. Denver's looking for a quarterback. Denver's looking for a coach, and apparently only Peyton Manning and Gary Kubiak can do the gig out there because they can't find anybody else.
Right, indeed. And one interesting point of note, for as long as the Denver Broncos have been in existence, did you know that this was the only time in franchise history that they've had back-to-back losing seasons?
That's incredible.
Of under 500. Back-to-back. First time in franchise history. His franchise has been around since the 60s. So
I thought you were going to say 1600s. I was going to say football didn't exist back then.
Well, no, it did. I mean, it might have, but it might have been a completely different format. But anyways, please go ahead because I'm reading ahead now. Let's move on to the next team, the final.
There's
team
a reason why I have this team dead last. They're last in our hearts, last on the podcast list. New York Jets fired Todd Bowles, 20-40 overall in his tenure, 4-12 this season.
Yeah.
How's that noise? My computer started making a weird noise.
Oh, that's
John,
weird.
What are your thoughts?
Okay. My thoughts are, look, Todd Bowles is an incredible human being. He's an incredible person. He's a great defensive coordinator. And I don't think that he was the worst head coach, but in the same, having watched the New York Jets all of my life, and watching Todd Bowles specifically, when you enter into year 4 and you've done literally nothing in terms of mastering clock management and your timeouts and your challenges and things like that, there's cause to be concerned there. Now, they had now they splurged in his first year. They splurged. They got the sexy free agents and all that stuff. They had Marshall. I mean, Fitzpatrick and Fitzmagic was not the sexiest, but it was certainly, a welcome change after Geno Smith got his jaw broken by IKM Poly. But they were in his first year. The Jets were a Buffalo Bills game away from making the playoffs in his first year. And instead, what ended up happening after that, 4-12, 5-11, 5-11. A lot of people say that GM Mike McCagnon should have been gone too. I can understand their point with McCagnon because of some of the draft busts that he's had. Although, Christian Hackenberg, he's no longer in the league. Devin Smith, he was drafted second. His speedster, Ardarius Stewart, all of them, out of the league. So he didn't have some good drafts, but in the same, he's done pretty well in the first round with drafts. I mean, Jamal Adams, whom I affectionately refer to as the heart and soul and the true captain of the New York Jets. Jamal Adams, love that guy. Moving up to ensure that they got one of the quarterbacks last year, the big quarterbacks that they wanted. And yes, while their first, they say now that the Jets' first pick was Sam Darnold anyways. But it wasn't. It was likely Baker Mayfield was who they wanted. When Cleveland grabbed Baker Mayfield and the Giants grabbed Saquon Barkley, I mean, right there, if they would have turned around and drafted maybe, I'll say they could have gotten away with drafting Josh Allen. But if they turned around and they drafted Rosen or they drafted some freaking defensive lineman or something and passed on Sam Darnold or any of those other quarterbacks, yes, McCagnon would have been fired yesterday. He would have been fired right after the draft. He didn't. He got some good luck. He got some good mojo the past couple of years. So that's why he's been given that extension, so to speak. That's why he's going to be there now to help hire the next head coach. Because for those that may not remember, the GM and the head coach were both vacant prior to their coming in. The Jets hired a firm, a firm to do the search and the interview, which is not uncommon in football nowadays. And they ended up getting McCagnon at GM and Bowles at coach, both reporting to the owner. So they weren't really reporting to one another. So one doesn't really wash, they don't live by each other and die by each other is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. Bowles had to go because, quite frankly, he was just not a very good head coach. He didn't really know anything on the offensive side of the ball. He was terrible at clock management. He could coach the boys up, although the boys did quit on him, as evident by that Bills game, where the Bills just completely routed him. And, it had been reported for a while. So I'm not surprised that he's gone now. I would have probably preferred to see him gone, when it was initially reported or after that blowout against Buffalo. Because at that point, what are you playing for? But now with that being said, looking ahead for the New York Jets, they are definitely looking offensive minded head coach. So Christopher Johnson, to his credit, because his brother Woodrow is serving on the Trump administration out in England, but Christopher Johnson, the normal Johnson of the family, seems to have his finger on the pulse of the Jets fans on Twitter and things like that, because there are some defensive people that they're minded people that they're interviewing, but you're hearing the names like the Harbaughs and McCarthy's and what's that guy Campbell from college? I can't remember his name. They just interviewed Kansas City's offensive coordinator, who's largely responsible for Pat Mahomes and his development. With the idea of an offensive-minded coach finally to help build around a quarterback that potentially can be different than every other USC quarterback that has come out there, come out of the draft. They're finally listening. They're finally doing that. So it had to happen. Bowles had to go. He'll rebound. He'll get something. He'll get something else. He'll get another shot. But it had to happen in New York.
I agree. I mean, at this point, it's one of those things that, you just kind of come to the end of the road and you've tried everything and you can't do much more. And he'll, like you said, he'll pick back up, maybe take a year off, but he'll pick back up and be a defensive coordinator somewhere, and then probably move forward from there. I mean, that's how it really always works, and we'll see what happens from there. But the New York Jets again looking for a new head coach, and hopefully for the Buffalo Bills' sake, he sucks.
Now, what would be a really Jets move is if they rehired Rex Ryan.
Hey, I hope Rex Ryan ends up in Miami with the Dolphins.
Why?
You heard about that, right?
I did not hear about that. No.
Apparently,
this is breaking news to me.
There was a committee he was calling around because the Hurricanes apparently were interested in, and there were some ex-Hurricane players. And then Rex Ryan said, well, I'm going to get a staff together potentially for either Miami Hurricanes or the Miami Dolphins. I don't know if that's going to actually go anywhere, but that would be great.
I could see him as the Hurricanes head coach. I think
the Hurricanes
he would do very well there.
The Hurricanes just hired a head coach.
Well, then I could see him being a good cheerleader there. That's fine. But the reality of the situation,
I know this is an NFL podcast, sorry, but the Hurricanes, their defensive coordinator left and went to Tampa went to Temple. About 2 weeks later, Mark Richt
came back,
retired, and they brought him back, and then still had to pay the buyout of like $4 million. It was great.
he finessed them. It's amazing.
Yeah, clearly. But I want to talk about the playoffs now because, like I said, the playoffs are coming up. So we're going to throw up these playoff brackets, complete playoff brackets. Myself, John, and Lewis have all completed our brackets. What we'll do is we'll talk about the first week of games, the 6-3, 5-4 matchups for both the AFC, the NFC, and then we'll talk about our final four and then who we have winning the Super Bowl. So first off, right off the bat, number 6 Colts against number 3 Texans. Colts are the second team ever to start 1-5 and make the playoffs. The Texans took the first matchup of the season in week 4. 37-34 in overtime. The Colts took the most recent matchup in week 14, 24-21. Now, John, the Colts are by far one of the hottest, if not the hottest teams in football. They've completely turned their offense around. Frank Reich is having a damn good time in Indianapolis with Nick Sirianni, like I said. Are you going Indianapolis or are you going Houston on this one?
I am going Houston on this one. I think that while the Colts are a wonderful story and Andrew Luck is a shoo-in, in my opinion, for comeback player of the year, there are still some struggles with the Colts from, every now and again. Sometimes when they play an offense that's, higher powered, they don't do very well. And to the other point, and I know that the offensive line, I think it was 5 or 6 games they went without allowing Andrew Luck to be sacked. Well, and you're playing a stout defense that's gonna put pressure on them, like it's happened a couple of times. And I know because I freaking started Andrew Luck in some fantasy leagues, and he didn't fare too well in those situations, but he's looked vulnerable and he's not completed throws and he's thrown interceptions and things like that. I think it's a wonderful story, and I would not be surprised to see the Colts win, but given the way the Texans have played with Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins healthy and both playing, they have a very, very solid connection. Their defense is good. I've just got the Texans. I think the Texans are just strong enough to hold them at bay and win. And I know you have here listed in week 4, 37-34 overtime Texans, 24-21 in week 14 Colts. It's going to be the rubber match, but I think the Texans are more prepared for this moment than maybe the Colts would be.
I think for me, it just comes down to defense. I think Houston's defense is stronger. I know Lewis picked the Colts over the Texans. I could see this going either way, but I think Houston will end up taking it. Moving over to the other AFC matchup, the number 5 Chargers, the number 4 Ravens. We've seen this matchup just recently. The Ravens handled the Chargers 22-10 in a Week 16 matchup. Made Phil Rivers look mortal, made Melvin Gordon look mortal. Those two guys have had a great season, but not against the Ravens in Week 16. This Ravens defense looks very stout, John. They look like they might be able to carry this team on a stretch run. Granted, if Lamar Jackson can continue to do what he's been doing, he's been fantastic since taking over the job from Joe Flacco. Kind of Wally pipped him there where Joe Flacco was hurt. Lamar Jackson comes in and they say, hey, Joe Flacco, you're going to ride the bench, which the Flacco story is going to be fun to follow in the offseason. A lot of people think he could end up in a place like New York with the Giants. Who knows? We'll see. But
calling my shot, Denver.
But that's a good one too, for sure. Especially if they can get Gary Kubiak to come back and at least be the offensive coordinator, that would be I think a good fit for Joe Flacco. But anyways,
yeah, I don't disagree.
I think the Ravens defense is gonna be tough to beat. But for me, I've got I almost said San Diego Superchargers, the Los Angeles Superchargers, taking on the Ravens and taking them down, being able to stop Lamar Jackson. Now that they played him just a couple weeks ago, they've got good tape on him. They know exactly what he may or may not do. And I think they can come out on top.
That's exactly why I have the Chargers over the Ravens as well. Because look, let's not discredit the Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers are playing some damn good football. Damn good football. I mean, they could have been the 1st seed, the 2nd seed, or the 5th seed. You know what I mean? Depending on what way the Week 17 games would have taken shape. Now, having seen Lamar Jackson up close and personal in Week 16, they're going to have a better preparation. They're going to be able to prepare for them better, just like you said. They're not going by what could happen with Lamar Jackson based on college footage and pro footage with preseason footage or anything like that. And no, they're going to actually have in-game footage. They're going to be able to bring back the Week 16 game, look at all the stuff that he did in that 22-10 win, and say, okay, he's prone to do this. He's prone to do this. So let's try that and let's try that. And Anthony Lynn, he's kind of letting Phillip Rivers do his thing. And Phillip Rivers is balling, playing some of the best football, if not the best football that he has ever played in his career at this age. I think honestly, I've got a feeling about this Chargers team. I think it's his time. I think it's Rivers' time. At the very least, he's getting by the Baltimore Ravens in the wild card. And I think Lamar Jackson's inexperience, just more or less from being a rookie, will catch up to him. I don't know if I don't want to necessarily say the moment's too big for him or anything like that, but the moment is certainly a wild card weekend is certainly bigger than any college football game he was a part of.
Absolutely, and like I said, I think with playing so recently, that certainly has something to do with it for sure.
Absolutely.
Again, though, San Diego, I did it again there.
Yes. Well, you know what? I have San Diego. You're in my hearts, which is why for the Alliance of American Football, which starts the week after the Super Bowl on CBS, I am representing the San Diego Fleet.
Cheap plug. I wonder if Josh Johnson will make it in time so he can get his starting quarterback job back.
I hope so. He's going to be great throwing all those long incompletions to whomever the hell the receivers are there. Let's go, Fleet.
Now moving over to the NFC, the number 6 Eagles at the number 3 Bears. The Eagles are one of the hottest teams in the NFL as well, sneaking their way in with Nick Foles. The Bears defense, obviously very good. That's why they got here with the number 3 seed. But Mitchell Trubisky has struggled on and off. Could be in some trouble against a very good Eagles defense. I mean, they won the Super Bowl last year. Have not been as good this year, but still, they've got the experience, and that is always important in games like this.
There is some kind of magic.
Eagles? Sorry, John. I just want to ask you this question. Sure. This is my main question. Okay. The Bears are the Bears. We know the Bears. I want to know from you: can the Eagles continue with the magical Foles under center, or do you think they're going to meet their match with the Chicago Bears?
If the Bears defense was not the Bears defense, if they did not have Khalil Mack, the best defensive player in the game, how you doing, John Gruden? If they didn't play them. If they somehow manage to play, I don't know, the Dallas Cowboys, I would say that the old magic luster of Big Dick Nick in the postseason, they could ride that. I just made a penis joke and a sex joke all in one. But because of the Bears being who the Bears are, I could see the defense doing enough to keep Foles at bay, and Trubisky and the offense doing just enough to keep the Eagles defense at bay. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a much lower scoring game than everybody thinks it might be, because both defenses are pretty good. But in the same, I've got the Bears narrowly edging out the Eagles here.
And I think with Nick Foles with his injured ribs, his bruised ribs, I certainly think the Bears won't stop themselves from taking shots at him when they can. Nor should they. Looking over at the Seahawks and Cowboys, number 5 versus number 4.
Seahawks
in Dallas.
Seahawks.
Seattle defeated Dallas 24-13 in September, but every time these two teams play, John, I always remember the Seahawks-Cowboys playoff game, that fumbled Tony Romo snap in the 2006 NFC wildcard game. I know Lewis is probably rolling over on his couch, on his chair, wherever his car. He's rolling over in his driver's seat while he's smoking a cigar. I actually watched that video back again just to be reminded, because
let me just, for the hell of it, let me bring up his prediction. Of course, he's got the Cowboys going to the freaking NFC Championship. Get out of here, Lewis.
If you watch the play back, Romo did what Romo needed to do. It's the kicker who missed a block. If I think it was Martin Gramatica. If Martin Gramatica got the block on that play, Tony Romo may have been able to get in for a touchdown, but Gramatica whiffed out a block, understandably, because they had to jump over a guy and then kind of turn around. So I guess you can't really put too much blame on him, but I digress. The guy who Gramatica had to block, he didn't get him. Romo gets tackled a couple yards short, and that's the game. Mm-hmm. So again, who knows? But I mean, I'm picking Dallas in this one. I think Seattle probably will win, but I just figured, my thought was Dallas is at home, and Ezekiel Elliott's been lights out this year. So if they can control the game, my thing is, if they can control the game with the run game, with Ezekiel Elliott, and they can limit the possessions for the Seattle Seahawks, they'll be able to win.
That'll be the only way that they'll be able to win, because I don't trust Dak enough. And granted, acquiring Amari Cooper for that number 1 pick, okay, kind of a good move on the Dallas Cowboys' part, but it doesn't have a good number 2. They don't have a solid number 2 receiver for Dak to throw to. And they're, so when they're not really throwing to Amari Cooper, they're relying heavily on Ezekiel Elliott, which, is good now, I suppose, but eventually that's going to run dry. And the Seahawks defense are still the Seahawks defense. They're not the Legion of Boom, but they're still okay. Plus you've got Russell Wilson, who has been playing at a very, very high level. He's been staying in the pocket a little more. He hasn't been the Russell Wilson of old where he's running for his life and everything, trying to make plays happen like that. No, he's playing quarterback very well. And I think that just the Seahawks are a little more experienced than this incarnation of the Dallas Cowboys, and that experience is going to pay in the form of another Dallas Cowboys loss in the playoffs. Sorry, Lewis. They're not going to the NFC Championship. I don't disagree there for sure. Now, moving on to our final portion of the podcast real quick here. In case you missed it, the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes led Kansas City Chiefs. They are the number 1 seed in the AFC. If you want to act surprised, the New England Patriots, led by Tom Brady, are the number 2 seed in the AFC. In the NFC, the New Orleans Saints, led by that powerfully explosive offense, are the number 1 seed in the NFC. And then the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams, the all-around really good Rams, are number 2 in the NFC. Mm-hmm. And just before we move forward here, a reminder, the number 1 seed gets the lowest remaining seed. So if 6 wins, if whoever the lowest seed is that wins on Saturday or Sunday,
They face the number 1 seed. The highest remaining seed gets the number 2 seed. So we'll run with Lewis first since he's not on the podcast. Lewis's final 4, he has Kansas City facing the Chargers in the AFC Championship game. He has the Cowboys facing the Rams in the NFC Championship game. He has the
He's got to be smoking something if he thinks the Cowboys would beat the Saints. But okay, I get it.
That would be wild, and we'll talk about that in just a minute.
What's in those cigars of yours, Lewis?
He's got Kansas City.
Is it the same stuff that's in my pipe over here? Oh, wait, never mind.
He's got Kansas City facing the Rams in the Super Bowl and Kansas City winning the Super Bowl.
That is a damn good Super Bowl prediction, though, and I bet you that would be a damn good Super Bowl. And I could totally see his outcome there of Kansas City beating the Rams. Wow, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. If that is the Super Bowl, that is a really tough one.
And you've got, John, you have the Chargers riding the momentum over Baltimore, over Kansas City, over the New England Patriots into the Super Bowl. And you have the New Orleans Saints rolling their way to an NFC title game against the Rams. You have the Saints obviously in the Super Bowl, and you have the Los Angeles Superchargers as the Super Bowl champions.
That's right. I have them as the champions, mainly because I've been doing bold predictions pretty much all season, and this kind of goes along the bold prediction. I mean, the bold prediction in the context that I give out the bold predictions would say the Dallas Cowboys would win the Super Bowl. But this particular bold prediction could actually happen. Because I do think the Chargers are that good of a team where, I mean, let's just put it in this perspective here. What was their total? Is their win total? Were they 11 or 12? Did they win 11 games?
That's a good question.
I think they were an 11-win team this year or 12-win team this year. I mean, that's more than all the NFC wild card combined. Not combined, but each individual team. I think that the
12-4
Chargers, they were 12-4. So the 12-4 Chargers, you had, what was it? Dallas had 9 wins. Seattle had 9 wins, I think. Philadelphia got, I think, 9 wins. I think Chicago is the only NFC team in the wild card that's in double digits. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I'm just winging it. But either way, the momentum train, this Chargers team is a very, very good team. Shame on you, Los Angeles, for not coming out there and supporting them. Shame on you, San Diego, for not supporting them either, I suppose, towards the end. Well, I guess I don't blame San Diego for not supporting them because the ownership's douche. But shame on you, LA, for not coming out there to that measly little StubHub center and support that team. But I think that this team has something. At the very least, I think they have the potential to get to the Super Bowl. If they get to the Super Bowl, I would like to see them win it, and that's why I picked them.
And then for me, I have Kansas City facing the Texans in the AFC Championship game. Could easily be the Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that Kansas City's offensive firepower is too much for Los Angeles to hang on to. And then I think that the Texans defense will just shut down Tom Brady. They've struggled on and off this season. Maybe the week off will be good for them, but I think Houston is going to get to the AFC title game with Kansas City taking that. In the NFC, I've got Saints and Cowboys again. Good luck stopping that Saints offense, especially once they lock down home field advantage throughout where they no longer have to play outside. That for me locked it up for the Saints. I mean, they are a different kind of monster indoors.
Yep, absolutely.
So
I agree.
I've got the Saints over the Cowboys. I've got the Bears and their stout defense who shut down the Rams earlier this year. I've got the Bears shutting down the Rams. And then in the Superdome NFC title game, I've got the Saints over the Bears. And then in the Super Bowl, Kansas City, New Orleans, I've got the New Orleans Saints. The team looks like to be the team of destiny, although maybe Kansas City could be considered a team of destiny. I know we never usually get the 1v1 matchups either, but I think that if this were to be a year where we get a 1v1 matchup, that is going to be one hell of a Super Bowl because although Kansas City's had their good moments defensively and the Saints defense has really come around, we may get a game that ends up being, 45-50, just a complete firestorm of offense, and that would be absolutely fantastic.
I seem to recall the Saints. I seem to recall a 1v1 matchup years ago, which involved the number one of the NFC, New Orleans Saints, and the number 1 in the AFC, Indianapolis Colts, at the Super Bowl. Saints won that one. The very famous onside kick that just, completely threw the game into the Saints' hands, and the Indianapolis was never able to recover from that. So yeah, that would be interesting if it were a 1v1 like you have it here, KC in New Orleans, and if Drew Brees were to do it again, beat another AFC one in the Super Bowl. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, but this just solidifies him as one of the greatest of all time if that were to happen. But looking at your playoff bracket here, Kansas City and Houston, New Orleans and Chicago, the ratings for those 2 games, I think, will be off the chains. If indeed your playoff prediction comes to life, I guarantee you, especially that AFC game, is going to be a highly rated and probably very high point scoring game.
Absolutely. And because you would have at Arrowhead in January, cold, miserable, field's probably harder than concrete at that point. But that'd be a lot of fun.
Breaking news. Flames defeated the Red Wings. Woohoo! Okay. And also Saints offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael will interview for the Packers head coaching job on Saturday. All right, continue.
Not surprising, but it's surprising that it took him this long to get some head coaching, some head coaching talks. But I guess actually this is probably a good spot where we can kind of wrap up the podcast here. I know, like I said before, the playoff brackets will go live on the Better Live Than Dead Facebook here in the next couple of days, probably on Friday, just before the game start on Saturday, or maybe Saturday morning. I'm not sure yet, but you can check those out. You can let us know on Twitter at MRLG Perez, at Wolf BLTD, or at the JC Money. Let us know your playoff predictions, and we'll see who can win the fake prediction contest we have going on here. Because I
think I have some trophy lying somewhere that I could use for presentation.
Hey, I've got a trophy too. Speaking of the official podcast,
here we go. Where's my soundboard? Oh wait, I can't put my soundboard on just yet. Damn you, Ryan! Shut up, Ryan.
4-time champion.
Shut up, Ryan. You know what? I was doing some cleaning this weekend, and I found both my 2013 first place trophy and my 2016 last place trophy. So I get trophies in threes apparently in this league. So 2019, baby, I'm coming for the gold, baby. I'm coming for the gold.
You mean the silver? The silver trophy.
Shut up, Ryan.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to do a Booker T real quick. The four-time Wolf and Center Football League champion. You're speaking to him right now on here in a podcast. But with that being said, I am Ryan Wolf at Wolf BLTD. John, thanks for joining me tonight. He is at the JC Money on Twitter.
Yes, I am. And, well, hold on. You can't talk wrestling here for a minute. And see, now I'm going to do the Macho. You're going to do that. I'm going to do Macho Man. Here we go. Yes, BLTD listeners, this is shtick for you. Oh, yeah, I see, I'm going here, it happens in threes, 3-year increments, I get a trophy in the Wolfenstein Football League, in 2013, won the championship, got that beautiful silver trophy sitting up on my, mantle right there, and then 3 years later, right next to that, is a trophy of a horse's ass, looks like Hulk Hogan, but, trophy of a horse's ass sitting right there. So now we make our way into 2019. Macho Man channeling. The Macho Madness. Running wild over all them other teams. I'm gonna smack them down, drop the elbow on them. 2019 bold prediction. Gonna be the champion. Dig it.
That was fantastic.
It's been a while since I've done that, so my voice is a little hoarse right now. But what's funny is I did the before the podcasts, I tend to like to put some type of commercial either before or immediately after the podcast, since the majority of the podcasts on this network have now adopted your format of just kind of going straight through and not necessarily breaking for commercials. But after I created a podcast specifically for shopgear.com in which Macho Man Randy Savage comes back from the dead, and he's talking about the benefits of shopgear.com and then asks JC Money, me, a question in which I comically replied to him that he's dead and he doesn't need the money that Amazon kicks back when you use shopgear.com. So, it's, wow. I got to piece it all together. I got to get the Macho Man's theme and throw it in there, but it's going to be fun. Probably won't come on this podcast, but in future podcasts, I'd listen for it.
That is something I look forward to hearing. And hey, quick shout out to rest in peace, Mean Gene. It's a sad day in the wrestling world.
Mean Gene and Marty Funkhauser.
Super Dave Osborne.
That's a rough one for us wrestling. A rough one for us in general that we're fans of him. But as far as wrestling goes, I mean, Mean Gene was, I was talking to some of the wrestlers, and it holds true that when Vince McMahon and Howard Finkel pass away, like, that is an entire generation of wrestling voices and personality that will now be gone. And it's going to be so weird because today's generation, they have the Corey Graves and the, Michael Coles and, even your generation, Ryan, you go back to Jim Ross, Jerry the King Lawler and all that stuff. I go back to Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Mean Gene Okerlund behind the mic and all that. I was watching the 1990 Royal Rumble randomly yesterday, and I was going through, and this is so weird. I was going in the beginning of those older Royal Rumbles. It lists the names of who is participating in there and shows kind of like a still frame image of those as they go through. Very high tech for the 90s, early 90s back then, but very weird now. And it was crazy because I was looking through all the lists as they were naming the names, and I'm like, he's no longer with us. He's no longer with us. He's no longer with us. Oh, he's still alive. Oh, he's in a wheelchair. He's no longer with us. And then they go back to an interview with me and Gene Okerlund, and I said to myself, thank God we still have Gene Okerlund, And then today,
what you done?
Yeah, shut up, Ryan. I didn't kill him.
Thanks.
I didn't kill him.
Look at that's a good little audio clip right there. You saying I didn't kill him?
No, fair. I did not kill. I didn't, Ryan. I did not kill Mean Gene Okerlund.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. I appreciate you clearing that up. But hey, that being said, we appreciate you tuning into the podcast that went off the rails completely. Enjoy the playoffs. We will talk to you sometime very soon regarding the sports. And with that being said, John, as always, we are better live than dead.
You're not.
We'll catch you sometime very soon. Also, Lewis, get well soon. We'll be back on the podcast with John, with Lewis, with whoever wants to talk on the podcast. We'll be here soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Dallas Cowboys not winning.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.